It's Saturday night. All right. So, starting the Scrum stand-up, although I'm not going to stand up. I've said before why you usually stand up, right?
To burn calories. It's healthy for you.
Makes people talk for a shorter time. If you have to stand up to talk during a meeting and you just go around and stand up, everyone tends to be quicker. Downloads folder probably. Well, where did you download to? Okay. So first is Chris. And most of you probably don't know what Chris is working on.
Just a picture of Chris pops up. He's like,
so Chris works in the healthcare industry. He's working on, he'd have to explain it, but there's some kind of device that they use during surgeries with, I think it's for the anesthesiologist or something, but they use them and sanitize them and use them 30 times, and then they have to throw them away. And it's hard to track how many times they use them. So his...
That's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, it sounded weird to me too, like that they use them, but I asked my wife about it. She knew exactly what it was, so I don't know. Anyway, the idea is to track and be able to enter like serial numbers so you know this one has been used this many times, and then when it's time to dispose of it, because right now it's paper. They like write it down. Yeah, I suppose. So he's trying to do it on a Raspberry Pi just to get it to run as like a little system that would do this.
He's trying to do what Name is doing, have it count for this project.
That's what he's doing, is he's double dipping, which I've heavily encouraged, right? So if you can double dip, you're going to produce something better and get something in the end. So what Chris did last week, I worked on setting up the questions and assigned those task numbers to allow progression of the design. I reflected on issues that will arise and gave feedback. I also updated all the information on the wiki page to make sure that it's well documented so that it can work easily. So my comments about that are good. You're a little bit behind on development because you didn't do any development for that week. So you can catch up. What will you do next week? Next week, I'll be tackling more of the tasks and putting in more time on the interface of the GUI and trying to make it look easy to use and actually function. I am by no means a coder, and this would really reflect on this project. However, I'm going to be making this easier and do this in a Java pop screen and maybe keep it to that for the time being. The project has turned into a much more complicated program than I thought it would be. So, you know, we have a number of these issues, people that never done databases and people that don't have much coding. So just concentrate on the interface part, and if things don't work behind the scenes, that's fine. This class is as much about going through the process as the outcome. Impediments, so basically the software development is what you're saying here. And then just issues about dealing with the variety of serial numbers. These are LMAs are what he's tracking. Apparently they're not standardized, so that makes it a little trickier, I guess. But I would recommend, I mean, you're just taking in a numeric input, so it's, being able to search and enter data in the store and kick back a maximum use of 30 is an issue. So keep plugging away. Try to double down a little bit on the development next week. Comments, questions, concerns for Chris on the recording?
We miss you.
We miss you, Chris. All right. So that's Chris. Travis, he got called for work or something. So week 1 completions, homepage, login page, sign up page, found hosting for site and database, hosted mock-up pages in index PHP, created logo for site. That's good. That's good progress. maybe would have written this out in a paragraph, like something you would have read to the class. Week 2 goals: build user pages, build logging and user information. So Travis's is this meme tracking website. That's the gist of his project. Though I keep forgetting to say this to Travis, so now I'll say it on YouTube for ever. His Taiga.io project is meme with capital M and with both capital M's. So every time I see it, I read it as Mimi. Mimi space. I think that's what it is. Instead of meme space.
You're on my Mimi space, you know.
Yeah, you're on my Mimi space. Impediments: learning and understanding databases, learning and understanding PHP. Yes, those are impediments.
We have a class for that.
Yeah, we have a class for that. You'll take it next fall. And
learn lots of PHP.
I'm thinking about going a different way next fall if I teach
Really?
it. Yeah, maybe go in a totally different direction.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
Just a different direction.
A different language, a different platform, a different, probably MySQL or a different open source database. All right, Travis. Good.
Have fun.
Dan Banks, his are in the email. So Dan is doing furthering the database project from last fall of a music studio to track lessons. His wife's business is giving lessons and to track the clients and the appointments, that kind of thing. He's converted, we did Microsoft SQL, he's converted to MySQL for this. I haven't had the chance to talk to him how smooth the transition went. I assume it was easy.
He got most of it done, but I talked to him today.
He should have been able to export the scripts and run them to recreate the tables, because we didn't really do anything crazy that would be non-compatible. So created the database for the Music Studio web app using MySQL. So he has 9 tables: student, instructor, financial data, wireframe and mock-ups. The wireframe lacks many fields that are needed for the web app UI. Furthermore, I began constructing the web page UI or web app UI in PHP and HTML. So that's good. And my advice for Dan and everyone else, like, don't do a whole bunch of things and have none of them work. It sounds like what Dan's doing is right. Get some stuff to work and then build around that. It's better to get to the end and have something than a complete, well, nothing works. You know, that's, I'd rather one thing work than nothing. So next week, I plan to create a functional logon screen for the web app UI. That's good. I will continue my efforts to link the database to the web app's data forms and report forms. I plan to complete the creation of all data entry forms and progress reports in PHP. So that's good. Now, of course, Dan's a little further along because he's extending something that he had working pretty well last semester. So only issues remain: fully linking to the database to the web app. Once the database link is fully implemented, the web app will provide the ability to enter student and instructor data, process financial data, and generate progress reports. I would love to talk to you, Dan, and see how well you were able to convert the PHP code you had to work with MySQL. You obviously had to change the libraries that you use to connect from PHP to the database, but that the way we had it, or the way I built that, it should have been just that one file that had to change. So, and then the rest should have just worked. I tried to build it so that it was database agnostic. We used MySQL or MSSQLi, I think was the pack, whatever we used to connect, I can't remember. So, Aaron, and his is here. So Aaron is doing something about apartments. Rental company. But what was that? I'm totally blanking on what the purpose was. What I did last week was begin designing the layout of what my web-based page for the rental company, how the front end will look to the end user. That's perfect. Next week, I will be implementing some of the design for the web to be getting a skeleton frame that I can continue to build. Good. Impediments. How to get a working database built that will work with my web page. Not knowing enough about SQL to apply it to my project effectively is definitely a hindrance. And I already emailed Aaron. Forget about the database. You're not going to learn databases in 2 weeks, unfortunately.
Are you sure?
Stan, you were in data structures with me, right? Not databases at main campus. Data structures. So yeah, databases is a semester course. So concentrate on the UI, fake the database part of it. If you want to have a login screen, fine. But when they click login, just go to the next page and say welcome user or whatever, so just fake it, because I'd rather you make progress on that. All right. Let's see. So I think that's it for reading. Who wants to go first?
Damon.
Oh yeah, Damon. I did get Damon's. Can't forget Damon.
There's Stardew.
Let's see. Where is Damon's? It must be embedded into this one. There we go. So Damon is doing this EEG brain melting thing.
He actually showed me the glasses in person earlier. It's pretty cool.
So you might even be able to describe it better. It's a Raspberry Pi thing with these glasses, this headset.
Deep state meditation user. And if I quoted that wrong, I'm sorry.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
He's got 4 LED lights on each set of glasses, and they flash in a certain pattern, and it tracks the brain waves, and he's seeing how it tracks everything.
And somehow you can do it in a certain way to induce certain brain
He said he
states.
said it was he got the best night's sleep he'd gotten in a long time.
Okay. So he had to purchase a fairly pricey piece of hardware to read the brain waves. Like $500 or something, and then he's coding it. I mean, he says he's not allowed to test it on people. I told him once the semester's done, he can test it on me because I'm interested in it. But so over the last 2 weeks, I was able to complete most of the tasks of my first sprint. I built light goggles, generated light pulses out of them at a controlled frequency. I was able to get the drivers for my EEG headset connected to the EEG software and outputting data to the screen. I think when Damon and I last talked, some of these driver issues were causing problems. I designed an output window of current brainwave activity that has 4 brain maps and 4 graphs of activity in the desired frequencies. I got my user interfaces built and did a lot more research on the sound component and network component of the project. I also made a little progress on tasks that weren't in my sprint. That all sounds perfect. I wasn't able to send data from my web form to my C++ program. Haven't gotten CGI working on the Pi. Sounds like it. Oh, he did?
The CGI part.
Huh. Sounds like it's going to be a major hurdle. Well, maybe it's not a major hurdle anymore. This was at 7 o'clock this morning.
That was at 11:30.
So Raspberry Pi doesn't handle sound well, and the libraries I was using output tons of grating noise when compiled on the Pi. Oh yeah, I remember we were talking about this. I may have found an alternative in the Pi firmware, but generating binaural beats. So binaural beats is like that it's in both ears, right? Is that binaural? I'm also going to have to spend some time figuring out network connections via sockets in C++. That's fun. I did that in like 2004 in networking class. It's been a long time. The Pi components of my system has to listen for data coming in, performing calculations on that data, and modify its output based on current brainwave. So it's reading the brainwave into the program and then modifying the output based on the brainwave to adapt. And my assumption is what he's running into is there's no APIs for these parts to communicate between, so he's got to do it a little more manually. So I need to have a bare bones server program listening for data. I need to build a small command line program to send data from the Windows. I need to generate sound with specific frequencies. The only obstacles I see, yep. I don't know how much it's ignorance, but that all sounds great. I think we're fine there. So, like I said, some projects are more in depth than others. That's more That's not an indictment of your abilities or any of that. It's just we're at different experience levels, you know. So, all right. So, who wants to talk first?
Looking directly.
All right. Come up to front so I can put you on, if you don't mind being on camera. And then this mic will pick up better if you're talking.
One thing I forget.
Okay.
Okay.
Weird angle, but whatever.
I knew we were going to be in this classroom, and I didn't know if I could, so I just did some screenshots.
Oh,
So
we can pull them up if you, or you have them on paper, that's
yeah, I
fine.
already did that, so.
We've got this meta thing going with your
Look, there's 3
projected image behind you.
So the Scrum checkpoint, checkpoint 1 for April 21st. The description of the project, it's an imagined database project that would incorporate existing data about an apartment complex with a user interface for clients to access information. There'll be 3 levels of client: the owner, the renter, and the property management company that will actually administer the site. The property management company will have an employee assigned as an administrative user who will be able to manage and update the data files in response to the user input for the owner or renter. That will be received through the online site. Things that the site will focus on initially will be the ability to create an account with a username and log in, make payments for rent or HOA dues, and update personal information and have immediate access to rules and regulations that pertain to the condo complex. So last week's sprint involved choosing and prioritizing the top 5 user stories, the owner-renter information on rules and regulations, owner-renter setup for the user account, a maintenance request submission form, owner-renter payments, and owner-renter information update screen. So if you're a renter and you have a baby and you want to add the name of the baby to your renter information. So then just kind of the screenshots. I don't know, but
Yay, let's put them on.
yay. So just, kind of the overall, if people were interested in what the rules and regulations were, they could choose if they were an owner, or if they were a renter, and then which documents they wanted.
That looks good.
And then for
You guys can take a peek if you
a login screen, just, basic email address and
Good.
username. This would be representative of like the HOA balance that you were going to pay. So once you logged in, it would just already be there.
Nice, I like
And then
that.
for tenants, able to do rent payments and then maintenance requests. And then if you had information that you wanted to update my information. So next week, I'm going to choose 5 more user stories. I'm going to develop user interfaces to support the next 5 user stories. And I think that at this point, you would want to hold a listening session with the property management company to address any concerns. And of course, that isn't something that I would really do, but in a project,
Mhm.
that would,
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
you put some things out and you need some feedback to fine tune it before you just.
And that's why these wireframes are perfect, because you could show that to somebody and say, like, is this the information we need? Is this,
What am I missing? What would you like to see? How do you envision this working? And so are there any impediments in your way? It will be a challenge to develop user interfaces that meet the needs of all 3 clients. In some cases, information may have to be hidden depending on which radio button is chosen. As an example, a renter should probably not have immediate access to tax information, even though it's readily available on the county website. I would choose to hide this information in this case. Another area to address would be integrating an email response system to confirm that payments and maintenance requests had been made, and also that they properly submitted the information to have things updated.
Yep, that makes sense. And the way, just as a development side note, like the way we did that with Orbital Shift is you run cron jobs that check on some interval, are there people that need reminders, then send them out. And it's just a cron job, just triggers. All it did for us is it called a hidden web page that no one knew where it was, and then that ran the code of that web page to then send things off. Ours was doing it every minute because it was looking for messages that had come in as well. But questions or comments for Amber? I think that all sounds good. I think you're on the right track with this. Now, I was going to say this at the beginning. I just kind of forgot. And I kind of said it in the email. If you're in a real agile environment, you'll do a daily stand-up. So it's like everyone meets, you stand up, you say what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today, and impediments. So if there's anybody in the room that can help you, like I need that database query done because I can't do anything without it. And the idea is that it's real quick. You don't want to fall down the rabbit hole of burning hours and hours in meetings, which I've experienced over and over, and it's awful, and it drives everyone nuts and nothing gets done. And then at the end of every sprint, which is usually 2 weeks, right? That's kind of the standard. You do a little longer, like a 2-hour meeting where you review. So I've kind of, for us, combined the two. We're doing it on a weekly basis. We'll do this again. But we're sort of doing it more like the length of a daily one, just so we get some practice with it. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good job, Amber. I think that all sounds great. All right. Who wants to chat next?
If you want.
All right, Stan, let's go for it. I'll let Stan describe his crazy system. So
I mean, I can have it on my computer too.
yeah, if you want to show something, I mean, we know it doesn't matter if we catch it on the YouTube or not, but I think these guys would be interested to see it too. So
Okay, well, just a quick little background because you might not know who I am. I am an online student. I was an audio engineer for 10 years outside of Boston. This was years ago. Although being an audio engineer isn't my I don't want to say forte. It's not my main focus anymore. I still have 2 studios, one on the East Coast and I have one here. There's a particular software suite that I own, actually many. It's a company called TuneTrack. They make drum modeling software. I own every single one of their softwares. I also own all of another company's software called IK Multimedia. I have several acoustic drum kits at one of our studios, but I've been trying to move more into some electronic kits, and I have a Roland TD20 and this super Alesis DM10 kit at one of my studios. So you play the electronic drum kit, and all the sounds are modeled from that TuneTrack software. Now, since I own all these TuneTrack softwares, it can be a little daunting because there's like 30-something titles. Each one has to be mapped to that particular drum set, through MIDI and all of the configurations. It's a pretty big process. What I've been developing this year is an information system to help me easily import the configurations from both of my drum modules into a computer and then map itself automatically to the 36-something softwares that I use for drum modeling. So this is a little bit about what I did this past week. So this past week, I began developing the graphical user interface for my TuneTrack preset tracker information system. I modeled the GUI similarly to other software I've developed over the years for various clients. The software opens with a very intuitive and fully customizable switchboard. 10 customizable buttons are available, with each one corresponding to a customizable list of objects to open, such as forms, reports, or queries. I carefully considered the organization of the information system and modeled it after my entity relationship diagrams. These system categories include Alesis DM10 modules, expansion packs, presets, import-export, encyclopedia, reports, and system configuration. To really make the GUI stand out, I created a snazzy logo for the software in Photoshop, which incorporates a modified version of TuneTrack's logo and my own business's logo. I developed a color and property theme for all forms and control objects, which closely matches the new website I'm developing for my business. The theme mapping is stored in my data repository. I organized my user stories on Tega.io and created a sprint that focused on implementing the drum module input layout and trigger layout systems. These are under the system category Alesis DM10 modules. I had previously spent hundreds of hours reverse engineering TuneTrack software suite and preset system. I should note that each one of those softwares, just for their preset tracking systems, is between 10,000 and 40,000 lines of code per software. So in addition to reverse engineering that, I've been organizing all of this massive amounts of data required for my information system. This past month, I redesigned the entire database structure, which has been fully implemented and tested. With all of this in place, I spent the last week implementing the drum module input layout system. An incredible amount of work and thought went into developing the layout systems this past week. There are considerable amounts of validation and verification processes running behind the scenes to eliminate any possibility of user error. The user must select a layout from a list. The form then populates data associated with the layout and initializes the many buttons on the screen. I can show you guys that later. Each button on the form represents a specific input on the drum module and also corresponds to data entries from various tables. The intense database table structure I developed last month worked out without a single hitch. What is really beautiful about the system and database is its modularity. If a new layout was just created, only header information is saved. Specific input and trigger configurations are only entered into the database when the input button is selected, the configuration is entered, and the user presses save. This modularity is ideal for reducing database size and efficient report creation. That is, reports will only show data that exists, not pages with empty data. Next, I implemented the trigger layout systems, which is dependent on the input layout system. Each input layout has a corresponding trigger layout. Since both systems are very similar, it took only about 8 hours to implement the trigger layout system. There were a few snafus here and there that pertain to form flow logic, but not the actual underlying database structure. In order to work on a trigger layout, an input layout must first be selected from the input layout list. The snafus started arising when I was implementing the verification and validation processes. Again, these were all form flow logic issues, such as the user made changes to a trigger layout without saving, and then selected a different input layout. You should prompt the user to save changes first. After sorting out the form flow logic snafus, I thoroughly tested all aspects of both new systems with dummy data. Everything worked great and as expected. I then manually entered both of the current Alesis DM10 drum module configurations into the information system. Before moving on to the next major phase of this project, which is implementing the tune track preset system, I would like to spend the next week further developing some of the report system. There are various reports I can now create based off the data that now exists in the information system, which will be very beneficial during the next major phase of product development.
Sweet. Sounds good. I want to see it though.
Yes.
Yeah. Please gather around your laptop.
Sure. So here's the main switchboard, like I was explaining. Everything's customizable, like I had mentioned. There's actually more buttons here, but you can go into system configuration and open that up, and you can change all this around and change what goes inside here. So what I spent most of my time working on this week was a data module input layout. So you have to figure that every single one of these drums has to get connected to a piece of equipment, and then all of those particular instruments have to get their settings configured, and there's quite a lot of them. There's like, what is it, 273 settings per instrument just on the drum module, and that's not including the settings in the softwares, all 36 softwares. So just here, I actually, before I came, I actually uploaded the configurations from both the modules that I have there on my super kit. And I just go through and I can click on the input, and it tells me what kind of cable it is, what color the cable is, the cable's label, other information about what instrument it is, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And from, I can print out the layout if I want to. I can instead now go to the drum module trigger layouts, select that particular input layout, and now I can click over here. Here's an initial trigger layout I decided to try, and I've got everything in here programmed for the MIDI mapping, sensitivity of all the triggers, all that fun stuff. What kind of trigger it is, everything.
Sweet.
So, in case you want to see what the kit actually looks like. Usually just publisher on this laptop. This is 2016. That's actually the kit. I'll show you a real picture of the kit too. The real drum kit is actually on the internet, but it wasn't. Do
you play the drums?
yes, I do. I'm a metal drummer.
I assumed you were, but you wouldn't go to this much effort level for someone else to play the drums.
Probably
Probably
not.
not.
But that's the whole point of this software, is being able to map out everything and then print out these really nice reports that has promotional information about this particular setup. Someone comes in and they want to, hey, I want to play speed metal. I'm like, okay, well, here's my speed metal software. Here are the different drum setups that I have.
Yeah,
And then you can say, well, I want to use the Zildjian cymbals here, I want to use Sabian, or I want to use this particular DW kit, or whatever.
Everything has its unique sound.
I wish that the internet on here was working. I'll just show you this one picture. Just grab one right here. That's actually the kit right there.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Of course, you gotta have your dual bass drum pedals, right?
There's 2 single pedals actually. I like single pedals.
You like
better.
single?
Both axis, longboards. You play drums?
No, but I mean, I'm a musician, so I'm around drummers a lot. So
It's not quite like my DW kits, but using that modeling software is actually it's pretty nice. I mean, it's really high-end software. It cost me quite a lot of money
yeah,
to buy every single one of their softwares.
yeah, that's awesome. No, great work.
Thanks.
So you did that UI and Access, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looks
Looks Access
great.
front end.
Yeah, it looks.
I modeled it after my new website that I'm designing because I haven't liked the website. So, you know, you can see as you go through, it's got all the colors and the mapping and everything, fonts and all that fun stuff. So as I've been designing the website, I've been creating a data repository for that where I'm keeping all my themes in for like my CSS.
Mhm.
And then doing something similar with an XML document that loads every time the software opens. That goes there and changes all my control attributes. And
Oh wow, you can see we got them kind of synced up with that.
yeah, when I develop software, like I said, this is what I do now. I'm a software developer. I kind of go all out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great. And this is the perfect application for Access. Like you've heard my comments about Access and database.
Oh boy, he
Like-
probably doesn't like it, does he?
No, he hates it.
I hate it because it's misused by people saying, okay, we got 30 people that need to interact with this database, let's build an Access. Or we have 100 people that need to. You know, this is like something you're using, one user basically.
Well, actually, this is on multiple computers. I've got a SQL server.
But I mean, as far as like, you're not gonna have 30 people interacting and pulling up.
Well, they can.
They could,
It's
but
on there's a Microsoft SQL backend database sitting at the
oh,
at the
in
studio.
that case, so the front end
So
is
the front end
Access.
is actually
Okay, so,
it gets deployed every time I make a change. They deploy it out to all
okay,
the
so how you have it is fine then. I'm talking about using the actual back end. And people stretch Access
Yeah,
beyond what
they're
it's
using,
intended to be used
like,
for.
one simple little program that they email back and forth. That shit drives me crazy.
Yeah, so I mean,
No, there's an HP ProLiant server sitting in the studio that is
Okay.
Microsoft.
so then you have no issue there. But yeah, I just don't like the misuse of Access, and people learn on Access and then they assume that's the tool for every database thing they ever do, and it's not the case, so.
It's handy.
It is handy, it's great, I mean, it's just, if you're gonna build a robust backend that can support, that can scale beyond, you know, however many users, you need to go to Microsoft or MySQL.
Video watchers probably wondering what the hell's going on right now.
Yeah.
No, they hearing everything we're saying.
It's picking it up good. I was watching it, so. All right, any questions about this?
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
it's pretty spectacular. Yeah, I think it's great stuff.
Yeah.
I really like your theme too. You showed me the website and like your color scheme, you can see it even more on the website. I just really like it. It does not look like most of what you see, you know, so
I really wish the
it stands out really well.
Unfortunately, it's not. There's some funny pictures on the website though from the studios. But yeah, like I said, I'm trying to make them look the same. So
Now, I taught Stan, how many was it, 2 falls ago?
Something like that.
Data structures on the main campus. But I didn't get to know this side of him until this semester. So.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm glad you came because I wanted people to get to see this. Otherwise, you're kind of just doing it behind the scenes.
Well, it's good to see what other people are doing too.
Yeah, we have definitely some good projects going.
I didn't realize people were actually, because that's another thing that I do, obviously, I've told you, is develop instruments. It's what I've been doing for years. I didn't think anybody else in the class was actually developing equipment and using that as their information system. I
Yeah,
think it's pretty cool.
yeah.
I thought about doing that.
Hopefully, I mean, I'm assuming, and you've probably heard on the video, like we're gonna arrange a finals time that works for us rather than the scheduled time because I won't be here that day. Hopefully, Damon can bring his device in and show us all. I mean, I assume he will be. So he's got a piece of hardware, and that's cool. So
Was that other student also developing hardware for the, you mentioned something about Raspberry Pi?
yeah, that's Damon.
His is all powered
With the-
his Raspberry Pi.
Oh yeah, and Chris, yeah,
For the,
for the tracking out whatever those medical devices are.
that's pretty neat. I didn't know people were gonna be doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it is
People are
good.
just doing software stuff, and I thought about doing
Killed
one of my instruments that I'm developing right now, but I didn't do that.
Well, what class is Tom's that is using the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of them are taking C++, and they're doing the Raspberry Pi stuff. So some of them are, kind of combining projects. Some people are extending projects they started in databases last fall. I was gonna, I
The
guess.
person that's doing the Raspberry Pi with the eye thing,
Yep.
was mentioning something about audio. I'm an I have a degree in electrical engineering.
Okay.
He might find looking into the Beagle Bone instead of using the Raspberry Pi, just as a heads up.
Okay.
There's the Beagle Bone. It's another dev kit, so
Yep.
the Raspberry Pi. I personally like it better because it also has onboard DACs and ADCs, and it has a 3D graphics accelerator in addition to audio DSP that is 24-bit, 192 kilohertz. The Raspberry Pi does not have that, so
Okay.
if he's interested in trying to work out some stuff with this audio, I heard him mention, you might want to look into. And
Okay.
it's the same ARM. What is it? ARM Cortex.
Yeah, I think
M9
Cortex.
processor on both dev kits.
Okay.
So there really isn't much that he'd have to do differently.
I think the only reason we were doing it was just so we could use the C++ and this project is the same thing. We have to write software for the Raspberry Pi.
Right.
I'm sure Tom would roll for the Beagle one. It's the same thing. I
We should
mean,
look into it though.
yeah. So Damon, well, and one, you guys should interact at some point because I think you'd be able to share
You
some.
guys will have fun together.
Yeah. But yeah, you might look at the Beagle Bone. Might have better audio capabilities. So, and then I'll email between you guys email addresses because
Yeah.
if you can find a time to sit down, like I think you'd have a lot to talk about. So the LMAs, that was the thing for Chris's. They keep your airway open when you're under anesthesia.
They reuse
That
that?
was so gross.
Yeah, 30 times, I guess.
You're like,
Maybe is it part of it that they reuse? I don't know. Like, I wish Chris was here because that looks like it goes like pretty far
They do.
down your throat, right? Like,
Yeah. They go into your airway and your throat.
It's not pleasant.
medical device that keeps a patient's airway open. Well, yeah.
Gross.
All right. I mean, I'm sure they're nicely cleaned, but.
Ugh.
All right, who's next?
I'll go since no one else wants to.
I keep looking at you, just
know.
to bother you now that you said that.
Get out.
I was actually going to, but then Tom opened his mouth.
Oh, well, I don't care. I'm not shy. Well, my project is something simple. I decided to write a program and database to track my ammo manufacturing idea at home. Nice, simple. Uses SQL and PHP for the coding. Luckily, over spring break, I actually sat down and finished it.
So everything.
I'm gonna make you do some more of that.
I
Bad
know you
ideas.
are.
He's
Like,
got a fully working site that does everything he set out to do.
Right, there is a bill, I want to set, want the display to become a little bit better. I want, instead of just everything bunched together like it does with what he has.
Yeah, so just for like your information, we did a totally weird non-standard thing and we did PHP and Microsoft SQL Server for a variety of reasons last semester because they wanted us to go with the Microsoft database. That was what was on the computers, but I wanted to go with PHP. I would have done PHP MySQL, which would have been at least standardized, but so we went with this weird hybrid, which worked out fine, but I created a templated out PHP site that used Bootstrap, but it was just a super basic layout. Everything was centered. And so Tom gonna use that to build his. It's not the nicest looking thing, but I was trying to just do something as dead simple as I
Yeah,
could.
after I talked to Dan this morning, he actually got his to look nice on.
Yeah.
He set up to use frames.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do
It's a
some
little
little
old
bit
school,
research
but
on
that works.
and see if I can get it look a little bit nicer.
Yeah,
Have
so-
nice even columns instead of having things bunched together.
Go ahead and keep talking and then I'll interject when
Okay.
you're done.
Well,
I kind of butted
that's
in.
the main thing I need to research now. That's some problem I may have is trying to figure out how to use the frames properly on it to decide how it's going to look. Besides that, everything on the program is doing what it's supposed to do. It's storing the data like it's supposed to store it. I can update the data and add more stuff into it, no problems.
Okay. So my comments to Tom, and I guess maybe to Dan, I haven't seen his. Like frames are pretty old school. Like no one uses frames anymore, but I mean, if it works, it works. But
Is it live? Let's test the security.
I mean, I suppose there's use. I haven't done anything with frames for probably 10 years, but what I would recommend to you is we're using a Bootstrap theme. Try to find a different one and see if you can swap out the CSS.
I just had to find one that would do what I want.
Yeah, I would. That's
That
kind of
I-
the direction.
That are free.
Right.
There's many bootstraps out there that you can pay for and that would do.
That would be the easiest. And then secondarily, you should be able to dig in that CSS file and start changing some things to at least get it so it's not centered. That was just the one I had grabbed. Everything was centered and it was just
He said
really
he
simple.
main way he did it was to use the frames and have it aligned left.
Yeah.
That made everything nice.
You should be able to find a 2-column Bootstrap
I need
setup.
9 columns for all my stuff.
9
9
columns?
columns. But don't
Well,
forget, you have powder. You have how much powder? Do what?
Do you have like a screenshot we could see?
No, I don't.
You don't have your
I was
laptop?
gonna bring my laptop in, but my laptop won't hook to this because I don't have VGA output on my laptop. Only have HTML output.
Now, if you either need 9 columns or you need 9 different pages.
Actually, I need 9 columns. If you notice on what I'm doing, it has the caliber, the powder, the amount of powder, the type of projectile, the
Yeah, I
model
see what you're saying.
projectile.
To me, that's one table
Yeah,
in one column, I
Okay.
guess. Yeah, so I'll look at your code and try to point you in the right direction. So,
You're not a cook yet.
I know. He was gonna have me convert it all to MySQL.
yeah, I was gonna make him do the conversion, but so some students in here are Tom's an IT guy, so his programming. I mean, he took 1 class or something. So
I'm taking Java now. So.
he's taking his 2nd class. So I mean, that's where I'm saying we're at like vastly different experience levels, and
But if you give me a computer, I can turn it up.
yeah, exactly. He's an awesome IT guy, so he's gonna get a good job here, hopefully. One of these is gonna work out. So. All right, that sounds good. I'll point you in the right direction. All right, 2 more.
Want to stare at me again? I'll say yes this time.
Okay. Now you're last. Sorry.
That's the way she wanted it to be. That way she can spend all the time. She'll have almost a half hour to talk.
I can't remember what you're doing.
Me neither.
Pokemon?
No.
Oh wait,
No,
that was
no,
last
that was last
semester.
I thought about doing it.
No, I know what you're
That
doing.
seemed
I'm
like-
just
that seemed
joking.
like a way easy way to take.
Yeah.
doing a little inventory system, writing it in Java to keep track of all the inventory that we have in the computer room, because there was just piles of computers and piles of, you name it, sitting everywhere, and nobody knew what there was. Like, I found brand
I
new
did.
computers that nobody even knew about.
I knew about it.
Well, why didn't you say anything?
Because
I would
I
have
got
raised
fired.
your hand.
Oh, I've
I
got an
got
IT
fired.
question about this building.
We'll talk.
I'll ask
Yeah.
you when you're done.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
I'd be interested to see what you have to say about it too.
Don't ask him. But I got the user interface is working. It changes screens like it's supposed to. I got hung up on that for a while because I hadn't used Java in a while. So I had to get it going. And then once I got the screens changed, that was no problem. Having a little issue with the data storage. Damon mentioned something about a database connection. I haven't looked into it yet. It all depends on how it's stored. But over the next week, I'll probably try to get the information to go from one screen to the next, and hopefully at least get it to store properly and be able to retrieve it.
Did you figure out what kind of database you're going to use? SQLite probably would be a pretty good fit for a standalone Java app that doesn't need to have like a server running. So I'm not, have you used SQLite at all?
I'm a Microsoft SQL certified
Okay. I'm pretty much a
administrator.
Microsoft guy too. So, I mean, I've done a lot of MySQL, but I've done mostly Microsoft stuff. You might look at SQLite because it has a way it can package like basically into a self-contained file that you're attached to that just moves with the product. Yeah, that's probably where I would point you on that.
6 classes in a job.
Yeah, I know. My experience level with that is 0, but
one other thing I have run into is my screens aren't hiding the way they're supposed to. So if you click from one screen to the next screen to the next screen, you have 3 screens, and then you can like get one screen and it'll like totally screw everything up.
Yeah, I've done a lot of UI work in Java, but I left that behind quite a while and haven't
need to ask Steve because he knows.
done it.
Be like, I'll just do this.
Yeah,
I did a pretty big Java UI project, but that was like 2007. So
after you lost it, you for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that points at the one like extra semicolon.
Right.
So I think that all sounds good and you're on the right track. Comments about anything with that? All right.
You couldn't find my mock-up because it was in my sprint.
Oh, that's probably why. Yeah, okay. I gave him a big fat 0 and told him to
Yeah, he
update. It was a temporary 0. I said I knew you had it. It was just
You're lucky. I almost looked you up.
You said you turned it in late to get to 0.
Did I went from a 96 to an 82
okay.
over?
Yeah, you just need to share them. I think I couldn't open them. You need to make them public or share them or something. I don't know. We can look at it at some point,
But
but
like you and I talked about, my Excel sheet was the structure of my database combined with my ER diagram.
okay,
And we'd already talked about that. 'cause
Yeah,
of the issues I'm
that
having.
made sense once
And then my mock-ups were on the sprint.
you repointed it out to me. Here's my IT question for you and everyone else, because I think this is interesting. So where I teach modeling in the building over in that back
Are you in 16
corner,
or 17?
whatever that corner one is,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
there's like a row of computers, or not a row, it'd be like a column, like 3 behind each other. And whenever you click the mouse or scroll, the screen goes blank.
Yeah, your graphics cards are screwed up.
Yeah. So
Literally, I've gone in there and I've had to just straight yank them because like we're all running these this is so stupid. Like on these computers, it makes sense, and I actually just got the okay from the dean's office to like take them all out. Is like this one, we're running a splitter. We don't need a splitter. You've got all the weight pulling down on the graphics card, which is hooked to the riser card, which is bending the motherboard, which is bending the graphics card.
So it's actually a fully a hardware issue?
Yeah.
Huh.
Would you
Wow.
know which computers you want to go over there and show me?
I can show you after which ones it is. There's at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
This one guy
I
was
found the
getting,
2 brand new computers sitting in the box over there, the monitor.
They're all in ones.
You what?
They're all in ones.
Yeah.
They've already been deployed to faculty.
Oh, okay.
the person that was using one of those computers was getting so mad, and
No.
I told him to switch, and he's like, no, I don't want to have to transfer the access file. I'm like, it seems easier to me
Well, I
than,
went in there for Rhonda because she teaches whatever in there. And the graphics card was seated like this.
Mhm.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I wonder why the mouse click triggers it though.
That's what Rhonda said too. She's like, every time I move the mouse, the screen goes black. I'm like,
Yeah, these ones were clicking and scrolling.
Yeah.
Somehow electrical things, right? I mean, well, you're the electrical.
I was actually trying to figure out. I'd have to go look at computers.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Yeah, if you want to walk over there when we go over there and peek at them, because we can do that right after. It bewildered me. I'm like, I've never seen something like that before.
That's pretty common.
Okay.
But like in 8015, like it's the same thing. We're running a stupid add-in graphics card,
Yep.
and then downgrading it off of a splitter, and then just running it on low resolution. It's like, why not just use the onboard VGA? Why are we
Yeah.
paying extra money for cables?
The way everything's wired in this
Graphics
computer
card.
or in this building makes no sense to me. Like my complaints about the projector and how
Oh, I know.
it's they're over there, everything it's and all of them, it's just split.
Mhm.
There's not dual output. So the projector,
Yeah, no, the projector. just
you have to
runs-
change the resolution on the computer to match the projector, or it looks like, horrible,
Mhm.
which is
It's better now though. little
such a
bit better.
pain.
Do you
'cause-
notice that I straightened this one out?
Yeah, this is good now, and they got a widescreen projector over there that matches the format of the monitor, so that that's all good. But because we have class here on Thursdays and in that room on Tuesdays, so that's what I couldn't remember which room was which when I told you. All right, you ready?
Remember, you got a whole 25 minutes to speak.
Or you can just nod and we'll be done early, right?
Or
That works too.
just don't. Okay, so my project's really simple. I am basically just making an informational website with a chat room or forum of some sort so people can post comments and talk to each other. The focus of my website is Turner syndrome, which most of you probably don't know what that is. It's a genetic disorder that that only females can get it. It happens when as the fetus is developing, and when the fetus is developing her chromosomes, something goes awry or something happens, and she doesn't develop all the chromosomes that she needs. She, instead of having, I think 44 is what a normal person has, she only has 43. And that's what I have. So I decided to do a website on that. So what I have done this week is I just basically got the layout of the website started. I have some text and a couple hyperlinks to some other websites.
Perfect.
So what I hope to get done in the next week is add some more text, add some more information, maybe add some photos or something, and mainly just focus on the formatting of the website, get it formatted
Good.
the way I want to. Some problems that I might run into is, I think my main problem is going to be the chat room, because I've never done anything like that before. And I guess trying to figure out how to get it to become like a fully functioning website that people can actually go to and look at. So
Yeah, and it's forum chat rooms, there's plugins and stuff.
yeah.
Whether you get that far during this class, PHP, you can do the PHP what is that called?
You said B,
PHP BB, so I can't remember.
BBP, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
And whether you get that far during this class, I'm not concerned. You can always just say, this is the forum page or the chat page, and put a box and
Create a
act
little-
like
yeah.
it is
Okay.
for now, and work on the rest. And then if you want to keep going down the road, you could look at some of those others. So,
I might.
and then the informational stuff all sounds good. Kind of getting your menus and all that stuff is sort of the idea at this point.
Right.
I think that all makes sense. Good. Awesome. Comments, questions? Okay, so for all of you and people on the YouTubes, as I like to call them, yeah, the 0 viewers on the YouTubes that may view later. Well, technically you have till the end of the day on this sprint, right? That was how I set it up. So recultivate your backlog, prioritize your user, maybe some sprint, some task didn't make it. didn't get done, just prioritize it and then create another sprint. I want to see another sprint in Taiga
From like this week till next week.
from tomorrow till end of next Thursday, just what you think you're going to get done. I gave feedback on some of you on what you had done with your sprint. Once you get it in that task board, you can break it up into tasks, right? Here's a user story. User needs to be able to log into the site. Well, what are the tasks to do that? If you were doing the database, well, you need to have a table to hold user info, and there would be multiple tasks to make that user story. So some of you could break them down a little bit more. Like the user stories are user focused. The tasks are development focused on what you will actually do to make that happen. So try to flesh those out a little bit more on this round. Tuesday, we'll talk about some topics that I want to cover, and then Thursday, we'll do another stand-up.
I'm remembering to put my makeup on next time.
Good. That'll look good for the YouTubes. And then we'll have one more of those, right? That's the end, really 3 full. And then we'll set sometime, maybe next week, I'll do the doodle poll, and we'll try to figure out Wednesday or Thursday probably are going to be the days. I'd like to avoid Friday, and I'm gone through the end of Tuesday, unfortunately. So what?
Wednesday would work for me.
Wednesday.
Either one works for me.
I mean, I don't know. It's probably Damon
Ward.
because he has the work thing going. Well, and of course you have work, but yeah. So we'll figure it out. Are you generally
What
available?
week is that again?
It's the
Week of the 9th.
9th. Yeah, May 9th.
The 9th through the 13th.
Oh, okay, not that week, the 17th.
Yeah, it's earlier.
I think that anytime really is fine.
Okay. So, and I'll give more information as we go, but the idea is that you will be ready to show a prototype somehow. Either you bring your computer and hook it to the projector or something. You'll show.
We've got cables.
Yeah, but that can take 18 months.
Sure it can.
Not that one.
Sure it can.
Okay.
So we'll figure out logistics. We don't know what room we'll be in either. So, right, like that's one thing about
No one
going
will.
free with
Yeah.
not our assigned schedule time is we don't have an assigned room. So, I don't know. We'll figure all that out. But so you'll present your project. You'll do a more like a weekly Scrum stand-up where you talk about, well, here's what I did for this month. Here's where I would go if I was going to keep going with this, or some of you may keep going with it. So kind of give an update. And then that'll be your project grade. Now, the way I constructed it, I think you probably saw what I put on Moodle. You'll all get 20 points for doing the stand-up because everybody did it well. And then you'll get 20. So you'll have 60 from the stand-ups. And then, a viewer. And then you'll have the points for the prototype and the presentation that you do. And those presentations will be a little longer, of course. So, make sense? All right, awesome. Ending the broadcast.